This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Mateo Berbejicio. Architecture is often described as the discipline where science meets art, because it combines creativity with technical precision to shape the spaces we live in. This is the story of Hilario Canessa, an experienced chief executive officer with a demonstrated history of working in the intersection of technology and design. Hilario is the CEO and founder of Studio 4D, an innovation company focused on immersive digital environments for urbanism and master planning, industrial training, media, and entertainment. In this episode, we will talk about architecture, the intersection between rationality and creativity, immersive digital experiences, AI, music, rugby, and so much more. Stay tuned and enjoy the ride. Hilario, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Super looking forward to this podcast and conversation.
Me too, my friend. Hilario, let's get started with the very basics. What do you do today for a living?
Well, today I lead Studio 4D. Well, you made the long introduction, so I'll do the short introduction, which is basically we use gaming technologies for non-gaming applications such as architecture, urbanism, training in virtual reality, developing media content. We are big users of Unreal Engine and all the Autodesk suite, and we go that's where we live in the intersection between, as you well described, between artistic visual creativity and logic. So that's where we are, and that's what we do.
Very good. And what is your story? Why and how did you become an architect?
Well, I mean, I always was very moved by when the logic part combines with creativity. I think that creativity comes natural to me. I have a permanent, torrent of ideas, good and bad, going through my head 24/7. But I realized that if you don't channel those ideas through possible, structures, they go away. So in order to make these ideas live in the world we live in, you have to structure them. And I also have, there's a part of me that it's very rational, very, very, if you will, scientific method based. Like, I believe what I can prove and what I can touch, and what I don't, it's a belief, but it's not something I am completely sure of. So I think that that way of thinking pulled me into architecture. And then why did I go into this specific, uh, branch of architecture? It's because I am, my thing is to invent new things. I don't have, the natural patience to go to. I mean, I don't really enjoy construction. And here in Uruguay, if you're an architect, you have to go to a construction site. You have to work with, with the contractors and the vendors and the providers, and coordinating the carpenter with the electrician, and everybody has, and that's not the part that I enjoy the most about architecture. The part about architecture is the possibility to invent new worlds that don't exist, which is like, if you build when you're thinking about everybody, you need to be an architect. If you think about your own house and what are the things that you would like to do here and there, you're inventing new worlds, because it's not just the construction, it's the things you will feel, the experiences you will have when you are in those places. So that's basically why I love architecture, and why I went into this digital realm in which the speed between what we think and what we can see is faster than in the construction and the real world.
Because basically your job is to turn, in a way, imagination into reality in a virtual prototype that will allow users to see what they are envisioning, right? In the old days, you will do, craft little versions of reality, and then just try to imagine how it will feel. But I've seen some of what you do, and it really feels like you are seeing the entire scene, the building, going inside the building, understanding how the neighborhood looks like, what the impact is, and everything. Will you call it that way, that you're turning that imagination into a virtual prototype that you can test in a different way?
That is, yes, that is correct. It's a simulation, it's a visual simulation. And now I think the next step in digital twins, which is like this digital twins, is the area where we are now. I think the next step will be to, on top of making it visual, to be able to test data on that. But I think it would make sense to show a little bit of what we're doing, Mateo, if you think that's okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So I'll start sharing screen here. You seeing it now? No.
I
Now,
do.
yes.
There we go.
Okay. So this is one of the projects we've been working on. This is I would say a long-term project. This project is called National Landing. It's an urban development in the Washington D.C. area. So in order to give context, that's the Pentagon, Washington D.C. across the Potomac River. This is Reagan Airport, and our project goes from that end to this end. It's 5 kilometers from tip to toe, and it's roughly 5 square kilometers of area of fully immersive um, virtual environment. Okay, this is a live model. You can go all the way to night and then come back today. You can switch from one place to the other. And you can also go to street level here. Okay. So this
Absolutely
is
beautiful.
thanks. This is like people say, so it's a new kind of rendering, and I mean, it gets to my nerves when they say it, but I think it is real, but it falls short because the type of use and how this is used is completely different from a traditional rendering, right? Because in this project, for example, like, traditional renders are usually used for pre-sales, like at two moments, right? When the architect is trying to sell the idea to the investor, and then when the investor is trying to sell, the condos or the building to the final buyers, right? So that's where the two areas where renderings are normally used. And in this case, this project, as you can see, is a much larger project. Okay, the agenda of a large urban project is completely different from the agenda of a one building project, even if it's two or three buildings, because they're like a myriad of audiences. It's not like you have, the buyers and you can show them, one, two, or three bedrooms, and then, the amenities of the building, and that's the story you can make. And so you make one story through video and rendering, and then you can tell it to everybody, right? Here, when you're working with a city, you have many different audiences, because it's not only the potential buyers, but it's also the leasing clients that will rent this corner for a coffee shop, or it's the investors that want to see the project in context and see how far it is from the Reagan Airport or from the the Amazon headquarters, or it's the public officers that want to see the amount of green areas that this project has, or the amount of how the transit is operating at this time of day, or where do you have the residential area, or where do you have the corporate areas. Okay, so all of these different audiences demand a deep knowledge and a very detailed explanation of what you're seeing. Because these are all, audiences that are relevant. They are important stakeholders that will not only potentially buy the project and make it viable, but also approve the laws, approve the regulations, provide the funding in time. And there's many ways in which all of these audiences, are relevant for the project. So you need to tell them the full story. These are people that are trained, that they know their craft. So you have to tell them the full story with every single detail, with the pavements, with, if you're pitching for this corner for a coffee shop, you have to tell, there's, a plaza across the street. When the sun goes down, you will still have, people walking around because there's a restaurant around the corner. There's a dog plaza right there. Uh, I mean, in essence, these are audiences that are, not easily convinced, if you will. So they will ask very profound questions, and you will need to answer them in detail. So that's basically why this type of visualization makes sense specifically for urban planning. And I mean, I have a long speech like this for every single usage that we have of technology, but I think this is like our bread and butter. This is where we started, and this is where we landed. To be honest, when we started, playing in all truth, playing with Unreal Engine to get virtual reality, we were thinking about the goggles, and we still do that, but we were all like, this is the way it's going to work, and people are going to. I mean, people will not buy, a condo never again without seeing the interior, and that didn't work out like that. People don't always feel comfortable with virtual reality. It's not for everyone. The ones that like it, it's great, and for some specific users, it's unbeatable, and there's no other way to do some of the things that you can do with VR. But there's a lot of other things that can be done. And this type of application, which is basically, it's like a GTA without gaming, has many different uses, and it's become a standard for us.
Very powerful. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about the story of Studio 4D. What are the proudest moments and milestones that you remember?
Okay, so Studio 4D started. I mean, I think at its core, I am a very visual person. Okay, so, and as I told you before, I have this continuous stream of ideas, and I want to see them. So that's where it started. As soon as I started doing renderings in the university, I really dedicated a lot of time into it. Plus, I'm a Virgo, so very detail oriented. So I got pretty good at it, and since I have thick fingers and cannot work properly in models, I used to do this exchange with my classmates, in which they would build the cardboard models for me, and I would do the renders for them, and we were working together, kind of in a workshop. So that developed into me doing very good renders, and then I started selling to architects, around, and then when I starting the company in 2006, I always had this drive to basically. I'm a big lover of the United States, the culture, the entrepreneurship, the will, the openness to everybody. I mean, so I always had this expectation from day one to export our services to the US. Okay. Um, Uruguay, I mean, on top of that, Uruguay is a very small market, so it's not like we could live out of Uruguay, but it's not like we want to sell abroad. We want to sell in the US. That's where we started. Now we have, clients in other parts of the world, which is great, but that's where we started. And so in 2007, I met my partner, Aaron Stopek. He is in Washington, D.C., so we started selling rendering some videos there. And the company started to grow a little bit. Then we had, I would say we had an intersection, we had a very important point in the 2009 crisis, the real estate crisis, 2008, 2009. And we got hit by it, of course. Then we started selling, some of the services here in Uruguay. And then in 2016, we started using immersive technologies as opposed to traditional rendering and visualization technologies. And that's when things really started picking up. And we switched from being a rendering company to like actually it's a custom software development company because that's specifically what we do. Developing games is software development. I mean, with a twist, if you will, but it's software development at its core. And since every project is unique, we have to custom develop by definition. So that's where things start picking up. And yeah, and then there's a couple of pivotal moments. I would say the first three projects that we landed were very important. And actually, for virtual reality, we did land the Armani Tower in Sunny Isles in the north of Miami. That was the first, I would like to say, because there's projects that are important and might be very important and there'll be big investments, but it's a regional thing, right? But when you do an Armani Tower in Miami or in any city in the world, it's an Armani Tower, so it's a world class project. So I would say that was a pivotal point. And then with that project in VR, we got a second project is very important for us, and we treasure very much, which is called City Reach. City Reach, instead of being one building in VR, it was 7 buildings in VR in DC. It's in the old Fannie Mae building. I don't know if you remember it from the documentaries of the real estate crisis, but this brick building, and it got redirected into another commercial direction. And that was a very successful project. So we went from one VR building to 7 VR buildings. That was a big leap. And then 6 months later, we got hired by JB Smith to work on National Landing, which is over 50 buildings plus a full city. So that's another big leap. And I would like to say that for all of these projects, if you ask me why things that I'm proud of, I think that those are projects that any company in the world would like to get, right? Those are world-class projects that, unarguably have, a weight of their own that any company would like to work on. Okay, so being able, to compete and to get those accounts and then keep those accounts and then, deliver satisfactory work with clients that are happy from a small country such as Uruguay, it really puts you on the map, if you will. At least, personally, I think that, if we can if we can do this project, we can do any project. So I would like to say we are really proud of those projects, and we actually, keep working with them. So
I think
it.
that's amazing, and it has that kind of that David versus Goliath type thing that we all Uruguayans share, right? For the benefit of the audience, Uruguay it's a 3.5 million people country, small country in South America. Uh, but we are crazy enough that we think we can go and open up the U.S. market, which is what you did, and land those clients in landmarks. It's amazing. It's an amazing story, and it's very encouraging. So thank you for sharing that. Ila, what is it that you like the most about your line of work? When you Sunday and you think about the week, what gets you excited the most?
Well, at its core, I like to invent new things. Okay, so and that happens to me every time because if we have new projects, even if we are not doing something technologically new, which we are by the way, but even if it's a new design, it's like starting again, it's like building a new world. So that part, of we do have a routine, but it's always with a different twist that gets me excited. And also I have this, anxiety of seeing the project, when we get the plans, when we get the or the Revit files or whatever, I just want to see it in its full splendor, and that gets me excited. And then other things that I think are really exciting is to be able to connect with people around the world that we probably have no background in common, but you can still understand what somebody else is saying, where they want to get, and try to interpret, what they are saying, and also read between the lines and be able to fully understand their vision and try to get into something that everybody can understand. I think that's how, that gets me passionate about it. I mean, I do love what I do. So those are some of the things. And also, pushing technology and getting, I don't know, when you start doing too much, when you start working in innovation as a daily basis, at some point you start questioning, I mean, why do I do this, right? Because, I mean, happiness it's not about the next, technology advancement, but a little bit it is. I mean, it's not the thing that matters to me the most, but I want to see first. I want to see things first. I want I want to be a part of the future every time. And that is something that lives with us every day too.
So let's talk a little bit about that. First, I'm going to ask you about the evolution of technology in your space from the moment you got started, right? Back in those, back at college to where you are today, and then go a little bit further and tell me what excites you the most about technology that is coming and what it's going to enable in your field.
Well, I mean, technology has changed significantly. Just to put into some numbers, we used to spend, I would like to say, 45 minutes to render the reflection of a window in 2005. And now we render 45 frames per second of that reflection of the window. So I think the changes in technology are self-evident. I think that one big leap was when we started rendering, when we changed from rendering to mostly CPU to rendering with mostly GPU. That's a big step up, and that got things a lot faster and enabled this type of fully interactive technology. And I'm excited, I think this, I mean, of course, we have to talk, if you talk about what's new, we have to talk about AI, right? Which is, the mandatory conversation topic these days, especially among tech. Um, and I mean, I like when things change. I like when, things start to change. That's when I feel, I would like to say, the most comfortable. We have experienced changes in the past. Maybe this one is different, but I think that as long as you keep updated and you keep that, that drive of trying the newest technology and trying the newest technology and try to not fall back and always, be a spearhead in terms of the industry, that is a driver that we have embedded into our DNA. So, and now we are, of course, using AI on a daily basis for imagery, for video. We're trying new things. We know what it can do and we can't, specifically for our industry, which is a big question. People think that we can do everything with AI. It's not like you can do everything with AI. It's a game changer, but you have to find your own channel and your own segment. How does it affect, and what are the specific tasks that you can do with AI faster, and which are the ones that don't? So that's, I mean, and I think, I mean, eventually, I think that all architecture will be simulated fully in immersive environments before being built. We are a couple of years, maybe a dozen years ahead from that. But I think there is no other way. I mean, why would you? It's a lot more expensive to build than to see it fully immersively, right? And I know if you look back in the early 2000s, the virtual reality already existed, but BMW used it in a $1 million hardware setup that they had. Other compound. And now you can buy a $400, virtual reality headset and use it on a standard standalone mode and probably see the same thing, right? So I think the reason why we are not using full immersive environments for every single project, it's cost and how technology's cost goes down. No, it's not steady, and it depends on many things. I mean, but I think that eventually it's going to get there. Are we gonna be first?
I'm sure of that. I'm sure. Um, let's talk a little bit about your transition from freelancer to entrepreneur to founder and CEO. Um, how was that? And maybe what are the hardest things that you had to learn in order to become the leader that you are today?
Yes. So I had no other option because when I started doing renderings, I think it's 95 or so, there were no rendering companies in Uruguay. Okay, there were like only 3 or 4 freelancers, and there was no rendering industry. So I had to start a company. I had no other way. I was convinced that that was what I loved, so I had to start on my own. So that transition was kind of very organic because there was no other option for me to do that. Um, and then there was, when I went during roughly at the same time of the real estate crisis, I started my MBA, which was, it was a big change for us. The crisis had hit us, very bad. So we were at a very bare minimum with the company. And when I started learning about I mean, I'm an architect. So, and in architecture school, I mean, you don't get traditional, business administration knowledge. Uh, I mean, at least not all the knowledge that you need to lead a company. So when I started going to the MBA, I always said I got hit in every class. I went to strategy and I saw everything that I did wrong. I went to marketing and I saw everything that I did wrong. I went to finance and I saw everything. So I mean, it was very humbling. I got hit right and left, but I did learn a couple of lessons, and I got formal knowledge that I think was very useful in taking the next step when virtual reality and all the environment the immersive environment technology came in. I was very early, and I had a business approach from day one. I think that was very helpful. And in terms of leadership, uh, I mean, I always say that the only class of my MBA that I didn't get hit right and left, it's human resources, because I have to say I learned all I had to learn about leadership in a rugby pitch. That's where you learn who is weak, who is strong, who is good on that day. And you also learn that if you want to lead, you have to serve. You have to be the first available. You have to be the first one arriving early in the morning. People have to know that you are listening and that you are thinking about the problems that they have, and you're about thinking about where to lead the company, and that you have the new ideas every day, and you have to be very transparent, and you have to want the things that people want. So I would like to say that whatever I know about leadership, I did learn in a rugby pitch. That's I am 100% sure about that.
How long did you play? From when till when?
Um, I mean, I I mean, when I was a little kid, I got, as every Uruguayan, the soccer ball and the rugby ball in my first year. So that's when I started playing rugby, and I played until I got I have no ACL injuries in both my knees, and then that eventually kicked me out of the field. But I started playing in the first team at 16, and I ended, I think it's 27, 28. I did go early. I mean, I would have liked to play just 4 or 5 years more, but my knees wouldn't allow. So that's when I transitioned from I have all my passion in rugby at the moment, and then I put everything into the company that make a big difference.
And you played for your own club, which is the school you went to has a rugby club, and then you played for the national team in Uruguay.
Yes, that's correct. I played the Old Christians, which is, I mean, if I had to define myself as something, I would like to say I'm an Old Christians rugby player. That's what I am. And then I played in the national team a lot of times. I played Pan American Championship, South American Championship. I did play against the US a couple of times, against Canada, against Argentina, against South Africa, and I really enjoyed it. And I always have to say, I always say my kids that there is no bigger honor in my life than to having wear the celeste, the light blue jersey before playing a rugby game and playing the national hymn, the national anthem. That's something I will never ever forget. And every time I see, other sports people, playing soccer or playing tennis and they get playing the national anthem before, I go back to that moment. And I mean, it chills my skin. So that's also something I'm very proud about.
That's amazing. And then in your family, your father used to play as well. Um, how does that heritage play along as well in you, in your life and everything?
Well, my father is a big beacon in my life. You already know this, but maybe people don't know that he's an under survivor of the 1972 crash. So he played rugby very intensively. It kind of grows in the family. Uh, if you will, I had no other option than to play rugby. luckily. Um, and yeah, he did play in Joe Christians. He also played in the national team. He also played in a South American regional team that was, the best of Argentina, Paraguay, Chile, and Uruguay. So he was a big reference in terms of rugby. It's very funny because in terms of how we feel rugby, I mean, it goes to this day. Even when we have like big fights, like when you're a teenager, you have this, mandatory fight with your father. But we always have this back channel of rugby, with like, if we are talking about rugby, then we can talk about rugby. Maybe in other parts we are angry now, we don't. But if you're talking about rugby, that's okay. We are discussing, how we should win this game, who is playing bad, who is not on his best day. So we had this like back channel of rugby, which goes to this day. I mean, last week he was at my house. We were watching rugby together. Now my son is also joining, so it's kind of I would say that's probably the best definition. It's kind of this back channel in which whatever happens in other aspects of life, that part is, always the same, and we can talk in that manner. So yeah.
And your father is very big in terms of resilience, right? Everything that happened and everything that he's went through, and his story as a doctor, and the things that he goes through with his patients. Resilience is always a thing. Um, when you were growing up, do you think that was like rugby was mandatory? Was resilience also something that you felt like, okay, this is part of who I am, and it's going to be part of who I am wherever I go? How does it feel?
Yes. I mean, I would like to say rugby was mandatory, but it was not explicit. Nobody was talking about it. It just happened.
Yeah.
I liked it, but resilience was very explicit. Was You cannot give up. I mean, you cannot complain. One of my father's, headlines is, we have more than we need and we do less than we can. So That's my motto. Some people don't like it. I think it's great because it's probably true 99% of the times, yeah, right? We're always complaining about and and procrastinating about what should be happening in order for us to be successful in this or that, and we do less than we can, right? So resilience was very explicit to put it in a specific story. I remember one time there was like a small fire happening in the cross the street.
Mm.
And so my father was there with a hose and trying to put it out, and all the neighbors were around, and I had no shoes, and so I was running through the grass, and there was like spines. So I started hurting my feet, and I was like, I told my mom, I can't go, my feet hurt. Start running now. Your father is putting out the fire with the hose. Start running now. So, and I remember that very clearly, very clearly. And I mean, I think she was right. And I think that is a good, teaching. I mean, sometimes you
Yep.
have to take it. Sometimes it hurts. And if it hurts, you usually you have to go forward anyways. I
Yeah.
understand that nowadays there's other positions which I respect very much, which is just be calm, be present, be calm with yourself. I agree with that. I also think sometimes you have to have an inner conflict and have to go through it anyways, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes life sucks and you have to go on anyway. So yeah.
The hard things about the hard things, right? And I think as entrepreneurs, we face that every so often, sometimes more often than not. But that's the difference. You keep going, right? I have one last random question to you. What do you do when you are not working?
Right now I'm playing a lot of music. Just before the podcast, we were talking about all the beautiful equipment you have back there. Um, so yeah, right now I have played drums and guitar, in an amateur format always, but now I'm putting a lot of time into it. A lot of time. I have a couple of friends my age, and we play every now and then. It's a lot of fun. But now we are, I don't know, writing songs and starting to learn about sound and how should guitars sound and how should drums sound. And that's my thing now. I always have, some kind of interest that consumes me, related to work or not. And right now it's that. I mean, so I have streaks of interest in different things, from Game of Thrones mythology to I don't know, digital twins, or now it's music, and then probably next year is going to be something else.
Beautiful. And you are writing songs and you want to do an album. What are you thinking? This year, next year? When are we going to be able to hear your album?
Probably quarter two of 2026. Um, that's it. Yeah, no, how like traditionally, in order to do an album, you had to be. I mean, big companies have to pay for your studio time. Now you can record in your laptop, so why shouldn't we? I mean,
Yeah.
uh, we don't need to be famous to do an album. We just have to want to do it. That's it. So we
Yeah.
go for it.
And your kids are more grown up, so you have more time. It's a perfect timing to do it, I would say.
Well, that's aspirational mostly. Doesn't really apply. Well, I should have more time because my kids are growing up, but that doesn't necessarily apply. But I mean, in general terms, yeah. I mean, it's not like we have to change the diapers.
Right, right.
That's a good part.
Very good. Ila, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for sharing about your life and about your passions. And I hope that we can get to do this again sometime in the future.
Absolutely, and thanks for being interested. And I know that we share a couple of passions there with music and technology, entrepreneurship, leadership, among other things. So I mean, it's been a pleasure. I mean, we can do it again without the cameras next week or something.